Good evening and welcome to another edition of Wealth Creation Through Industrialization. I am Hadiza Olaoshibikon. This week's edition is focused on the trade and investment mission embarked upon last week by 17 companies from the United States of America to Nigeria. This visit was jointly organized by the Nigerian Embassy in Washington, United States of America, the Corporate Council on Africa (CCA) based in the United States, and the Overseas Private Investment Corporation (OPIC), which is the United States government-owned development finance institution. It has been described as the most successful mission ever undertaken by a U.S. delegation to Nigeria. While on the one-week mission, the prospective investors with interest in mainly infrastructure and agribusiness met with their counterparts from the private sector. Ministers, notably those of trade and investment, works and foreign affairs, relevant commissioners from some states, and leaders of federal government-owned development facilitation and finance institutions, including the Bank of Industry and the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. Stay tuned as we present high points of the Nigeria-US Fora that took place in Lagos and Abuja. The one-week United States of America Infrastructure Trade Mission to Nigeria, which started in Abuja and ended in Lagos, was highly successful. The mission, which was led by Mimi Alimayehu, the Executive Vice President of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation (OPIC) in America, had 17 investors on this visit, the largest number of investors from America to Nigeria so far. The Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment, Mr. Olusegun Aganga, while welcoming investors, said Nigeria has put in place a hitch-free process and also an enabling environment for investors to strive.
We have a strong, good environment that is competitive, that's robust, and that makes it easier for investors to do well in this economy. The other thing, of course, which we have done is to make sure that trade promotion and facilitation works. We have, I'm not sure whether you met with them, we have the NIPC, the agency responsible for trade promotion, but within NIPC is the OSIC, the One-Stop Investment Center. Within the OSIC, there are 27 agencies or ministries represented in that place, on the same floor. Their job is to make your registration process, your entry to Nigeria, a lot easier. So there's no point trying to go through different sources and ministries. Come to a one-stop shop. There's a one-stop shop for you, which has been strengthened. You have foreign affairs there. You have interior affairs there. You have all the regulatory agencies at the OSIC. So that should make your life a lot easier. Now, to make our job easier in terms of facilitating trade, facilitating investment, and making it easier for people to understand the opportunities in the country, together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we're setting up 8 regional investment and trade offices across the world. Washington would have an office manned by a regional investment and trade officer. We're working very closely with the World Economic Forum to make sure we move up the ladder very quickly in terms of competitiveness in the country. Also, we have 2 committees there. One is Investor Care Committee, Doing Business Committee. The idea is for them to react on a day-to-day basis on the issues businesses or investors have in the country, so that we address them proactively. And all our efforts have not gone unnoticed. We've seen results of that. One of the results I'd like to share with you, which perhaps you already know, is that only a few weeks ago, I did sign a $1 billion investment into the country with GE, an American company. That's the first in one of the sectors. GE are actually looking at 2 other sectors. And already, I think they are visiting the site tomorrow. They've started work. The idea is to invest $250 million this year. And most of this is into non-oil sector. We expect to see far much more this year. That tells you the story. There's a lot to do in this country. And I want to congratulate you, first of all, for making this trip, but I want to assure you that you made the right trip by coming to Nigeria. We hope that at the end of this trip, we'll be able to measure the success of this trip, and part of that is about the number of deals that have come out of this mission, or pipeline deals that are coming out of it. Our job is to work with you and make sure that you get to the preferred destination.
The Nigerian ambassador to the United States, Professor Adebowale Adefuye, was full of praises for the present crop of ministers in Nigeria.
This government has the right people in the right places. You simply cannot have a better Minister of Finance than the person who have been World Bank president, but for some political reasons. You simply cannot have, we had to snatch Dr. Aganga from Goldman Sachs. From where can you get a better minister for trade and investments? And our Minister of Agric is as good as they come anywhere in the world. So we have the right people in the right places, the right climate, and he has, more than any other person that has been Minister of Trade in Nigeria, created the right environment for investment. And what describes the right to what I see all over the place in the US. And the good thing about what is happening is that between us and the US, there is a convergence and mutuality of interest, either in terms of our strategic global interest or in our economic interest. We both want a world that's free of nuclear proliferation, a world in which there is prosperity, a world with the doctrines of human rights, rule of law, democracy thrive, and a world in which there is sustainable development for all sections of the world. And that's why between us and the United States, we are always cooperating. And we are fortunate to have right here in Nigeria at this time a group of officials who are not only professionally competent, but they are very personable and they have excellent human relations and they relate to everybody easily.
Corroborating what the Minister of Trade and Investment had earlier said, Mr. Waheed Olagunju, the Executive Director of Business Development, Bank of Industry, who represented the Managing Director CEO, assured investors of the bank's support.
We are the tripods with one leg in government, one in the private sector, the other in the international development community. So coming into Nigeria, partnering with the Bank of Industry, you cannot go wrong. As I was explaining to some of your members on Monday evening at the residence during the cocktail, he told me that he tried to acquire a piece of land in the last 4 or 5 years without luck. I said, well, he's probably not beginning with the right people. If you come to the Bank of Industry, we have a relationship with all the governors, and he told me that he wanted to do business in Ondo State. I said, well, we could always reach anybody for you at the touch of the button. So essentially, what we do is long-term financing, and we do that in collaboration with our foreign development partners as well, because we have a line of credit from the African Development Bank. We have an MOU with the Exim Bank of the US, as well as a number of other international financial institutions. So we lead in most of these transactions, and we call on our collaborators from within and outside the country. And we're also in the partnership with a number of development facilitation agencies, including the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, with whom we also have a memorandum of understanding, and UNDP, and a host of other credible agencies across the country. So we're delighted to have you in Nigeria. The statistics are out there. Nigerian market is one of the best in the world in terms of returns on investments, and we will help you navigate the Nigerian economy. In case you have questions for us, we can be located at 23 Marina in Lagos, and our website is boinigeria.com. We have a table out there where we have our publications. Some of the publications includes the high-level investment and business summit that we held at the Dorchester in London last year during the Olympic Games.
Alhaji Mustafa Bello, Executive Secretary, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, also reeled out various government incentives meant for investors once they come into Nigeria.
The statutory incentives, we currently support a 5-year corporate tax holiday for those activities that are qualified as pioneer activities. As I said, you can repatriate your dividends and profits 100%. We have capital allowances, these ones that cut across the board. There are other allowances that are specific to activities from sector to sector. On research and development, you are entitled to 140%. If you use a minimum of 20% input of local raw material, you are entitled to 20% of that as a capital allowance per annum over 5 years. In effect, you are recovering a 1 year total cost of your such raw material as an incentive, but spread over a 5-year period. And our value-added tax is 5%. We have export expansion grant to support your competitiveness and enable you to be able to sell because of the relatively high cost of doing business. You have so many things that actually you have to provide for yourself. For example, if you look at the energy deficiency that we have in the power sector. So for that, government came up with this grant to be able to support you to export. So you can get up to 30% of value paid to you back in grants, not cash based payment. And then we have free zones that provide very generous incentives for those who want to look at taking up their activities within the free zones.
At the end of the meeting, some Nigerian investors who met with a counterpart from the United States had this to say.
Successfully well done, successfully well executed, and in terms of success for achievement, I think the trade mission delegates have found out that Nigeria is a worthwhile place to venture into, and it's an investment haven, and as such, they have actually enhanced their interest in Nigeria, in doing business in Nigeria. So it's a successful trade mission. Frankly, today, an MOU is already being put in place in the aviation industry, for instance. We have a company that manufactures hangar based in Oklahoma here, and we have an indigenous company called Optimum Aero that is a purpose special vehicle to promote development in the aviation industry, understanding that they can do business together. And as such, when we desire to have additional hangars, we have those who can do it.
Nigeria stands to reap the fruit of this venture very greatly. In getting credible, serious investors to Nigeria in the area of development of infrastructure, which the country is mostly in need of now, especially in the area of roads, power sector, transmission lines, substations, bridges. We have companies here that are in power generation that has already acquired one of the Gencos, and I had a company saying that they are here to promote the construction of steel bridges, such as the one linking Onitsha to Asaba. Nigeria is talking of a second Niger bridge. That's the kind of thing that can come.
Kano State government has put all the necessary structures on the ground to assist to attract foreign investment to the state. So the government presently is working on so many projects that will enable private investors to come to the state and invest. Security has improved drastically. The provision of infrastructure, the government is working on that so far, and there is a lot of progress being made in that direction. With the present government policy, they have been trying, and the Kano State also is collaborating with Bank of Industry for the SME loans. Already the state government has given its counterpart funding, and the Bank of Industry also has given its own, and very soon the SMEs in Kano are going to benefit from the program.
Mr. Fatai Yusuf, a diaspora Nigerian on the trade delegation, caught our attention. He is the CEO of Usol International Food, makers of the popular Ola Ola brand of pounded yam. He also wants to come back to Nigeria and invest.
In 1997, we veered into manufacturing. Okay, and before that, we have been trying other sources of making this pounded yam, but it was a difficult task. It was a challenge, but we withhold every challenge. Any challenge that came across us, we were never discouraged. So we persevered and we came up with the right product at the right time. Quality was our number one item in producing Ola brand of pounded yam. I wasn't aware of back of industry until I came to this trade delegation, and which has been very fruitful. If this is the only item or this is the only deal that I get from this trip, it is worth it. And I plan to work with Bank of the Industry.
Although before now, the Bank of Industry was already working with OPIC to jointly finance various projects in Nigeria.
My goal for this delegation and for this trip was that we actually leave with some viable projects that OPIC can support. And I wanted to come personally as the U.S. government's development finance institution to send a signal to the companies that are here, the 17 companies, that their government's development finance institution is bullish on Nigeria, wants to do more in Nigeria, and wants to support their investments in Nigeria. And it's the largest U.S., I think, private sector delegation to Nigeria. The ministers not only just sort of made speeches, but at the sessions, they actually took time out to sit down with the companies. They took time out. We split up in different sectors, ICT, housing, transportation, aviation, and the minister sat through, talked to the companies, answered the questions directly on the enabling environment, and there's no better response from the actual minister on those issues that were raised by the private sector, and there's no more political commitment than the actual minister. So it was really productive, and we had an opportunity to meet also with a lot of the Nigerian businesses. So there was really good matchmaking session. So it was a really successful trip.
The Vice President of Corporate Council on Africa, Ambassador Robert Perry, gave the vote of thanks, which brought the one-week visit to an end.
The companies here, I want to thank all of you for signing up for this. You have participated in other conferences with CCA, and I'm glad you took the opportunity to come and participate in this trade mission. Ambassador Adefuye has mentioned that he has several other sectors that he wants to collaborate on in terms of CCA and the Embassy of Nigeria and the ministries. So there will be other areas. Listen up, folks, in commercial section here in Lagos, Rebecca. We might come back. And again, Ambassador Adefuye, Vivian, thank you very much for your continuing nonstop support for CCA. This has made this partnership possible. Also to Rebecca here in Lagos and Doug and your team in Abuja, arranging all the meetings. The meetings with the ministers, the time they set aside, that was invaluable and almost unbelievable that it happened. You don't usually get that. I hope all of you appreciate what you got. They want you to come back and participate in helping Nigeria grow. And this, I'll stop. Thank you.
Professor Adefuye, at a one-on-one interview after the program, captured the whole objective of the mission.
Well, the Embassy of Nigeria to the United States took a principled stand to support Mr. President's transformation agenda. And if you recall, there are many objectives of the transformation agenda, one of which is to diversify the base of Nigeria's economy, to lessen our dependence on oil, to tap resources into non-oil exports, create and generate employment for our people, and in the process improve the living standards of Nigerians. So the emphasis now is on the aspects of our economy that are not oil related. And therefore the Embassy of Nigeria decided to invite foreign investors to Nigeria to invest in areas that are non-oil. And so to this end, in furtherance of our binational commercial agreement, which we signed with the United States, we have been encouraging and assisting the government of Nigeria in developing other sectors of the economy, namely agriculture, power, infrastructure.
He also gave an insight on how the one-week visit has been.
There are 17 top executives of many American companies. I know there's Oracle here, there's GE, there's Biotech, there's so many of them. And then in that room, they met with ministers in Abuja on Tuesday, had a series of intensive discussions with ministers on housing, all these other areas. And they paid the courtesy call, Mr. President. Now they're here in Lagos to interact with the private sector. Because one of the objectives of the Investors Forum that we organize is not only that Americans come to invest here, we want them to invest in collaboration with the Nigerian private sector. And so the purpose here now in Lagos is for them to meet with Nigerian investors, Nigerian private sector, with whom they will establish working relationships. And they're also in the room there are financial institutions from the US and from here ready to cooperate with them.
Those were significant impressions captured during the highly successful visit to Nigeria by a team of American potential investors that included some Nigerians in the diaspora who, after making their mark in the US and other parts of the world, now want to give back to Nigeria by also investing in Sweet Home. The most notable being Mr. Fatai Yusuf, the brain behind the Ola Ola brand of pounded yam that is produced in the United States and marketed across the world. I, just like most of you, was quite pleased putting a face to the global brand Ola Ola. We shall in subsequent editions bring you progress reports on the promising outcomes of the mission that was designed to deepen Nigeria-US business ties. The visit was a further testimony and positive signal that Nigeria is indeed an investor's haven. Join us again for another interesting edition of the program. I am Hadiza Olaoshibigan. It's good evening and have an enterprising week.